Welcome to That Business Show 2.0 with your host, Jamie Maloney, where business becomes show business. Today, we're going to be talking about estate sales with Lisa Kroese. She's an estate sales owner and also a coach. So we'll be talking about that throughout today's discussion. Learn more at estatefusion.com. So Lisa, welcome to the program today.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So share us a little bit about your story of entrepreneurship and how you found the estate sales business.
Well, my background is actually in fine art. I have a degree in painting and ceramics. I worked for an auction house. So when you have experience like that, right after I graduated college in like 1995, one of my main first jobs was I worked for an auction house. So you see a lot of inventory come through, and then I was a personal property appraiser. I always thought that I would be good at estate sales, but not until when I moved to California, about, I guess, 7 years ago, a little over 7 years ago now, then I started thinking about actually, setting it up. So,
does somebody need to have a background in personal property appraising to do estate sales? Because, you're in there with all kinds of different, belongings, antiques. You really don't know what the value of a lot of that stuff is unless you're experienced in it. How does that come into play in your business?
Well, you can work with other people who are appraisers, or, you can get that training yourself. So you can start learning, the industry. Usually the industry attracts people who kind of they've been going to estate sales, they go to auctions, they go to garage sales, they flip stuff. So usually people who are interested in getting into the estate sale business have some kind of a sense of, walking into like maybe a Goodwill or walking into a garage sale and saying like, oh, wow, they have this for $1 and, it's worth 300 or something like that. So most people who are getting into the industry, a lot of them feel pretty comfortable. One of the things about being like my company, my estate sale company is called Expert Estates. And one of the things I say too is it's just because you're an expert in something doesn't mean you're an expert in everything. So no matter how much you know, you're not going to know 100%. And one of the things that happens that I see too, you can work with a local appraiser, so you can kind of start getting the ropes that way. You can do appraisal certification programs, so you can kind of learn from that. Firsthand experience, go to auctions and sit down and just, that's free. You can just go to your local auctions, regional auctions, go to when they have general, or sometimes they call them discovery sales.
Right.
Go to previews, see what things are selling for, go to estate sales, see what things are priced at, and then go and see what's sold, towards the end of the sale. So there's a lot of education you can do. And then, sometimes it's funny because when you're setting things up, like I'm really good with fine art, I'm really good with ceramics because that's my background. But then I work with when I have jewelry, when I have diamonds, costume jewelry is easy. I can tell if something is gold, or I can tell if it's a diamond, but I can't tell if it's an old junky, diamond, or it's like a really beautiful, well-cut diamond that's worth a whole lot. So when I have jewelry, I sit down with somebody, we go over it all together. She's a GIA certified, jewelry appraiser. And so I get that information from them. So you want to know specialty areas. And when you're doing estate sales, you'll know as soon as you go to the consult, because you're doing a walkthrough with a client, and then you'll see like, wow, they have a whole lot of, antique rugs, and that's not my area, so I'm going to need to work. You'll know going in, when you see things. And then
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Then there's always this stuff that just, kind of pops up that you didn't even know about, you found in a closet, and then at the last minute you're trying to figure out what it is.
I'm based in Tampa Bay, you're in California. I have a friend of mine here who does estate sales locally, and I was talking with him, and I was like, how often is it that, people use estate sales just to sell the belongings of their home and move to somewhere else? He said it's not really common in this area. Most of his estate sales are usually due to somebody passing. How is it out in California? Who are your clients out there?
I have a mixture of both true estates where it's somebody has passed away, and then when somebody is moving, I also get a lot of people where somebody is moving into assisted living, and so they're kind of downsizing, so maybe their mom is, in a whole entire house, and then she's only going to be able to have like, 2 rooms or something like that. So they have to really get rid of and thin out a lot of stuff. So I think it's moving more and more to people who are using us for moving services and who are using us for, they're relocating or downsizing or something like that. Just because more people are learning about the industry and the work of, doing. Hold on a second. I'm sorry, my daughter is here.
Not a problem. Understand that you are a mother of 2, I think it was. Am I correct?
3 daughters, yeah.
So how do they come in? Are they a part of the business yet?
That's why I'm called the estate mama. Here, why don't you play a game on my phone? I'm going to give you my phone. Let me unlock it.
We can't find my iPad and Lily's battery's dead.
Okay, here you go.
She sounds talkative enough. You can put her on camera there for an interview.
So as the industry is growing and more people are learning about the industry, a lot of people think that, you need to have, really expensive antiques or a whole lot of stuff to need our services. But even if you have a fairly average home, but you have everything in it, your sofas, all the books, all the pots and pans, all the stuff in your garage. I mean, you'd be surprised how much all those little things add up, So
today you work with other estate sales. You're a coach, specializing in that industry. Is there like a lot of demand for people to get into this business? And what type of certifications does one need to become an estate sales professional?
Yeah, there is right now. There's no federal, federally recognized. There's no regulation. So there's a couple different places. Like if you go on my website, if you complete my 4-week program or my mentorship program, you'll get a certification from me. On LinkedIn, there's like a certificate and a show, but there's no government agency. Like even with appraisers, with personal property appraisers, there's the Appraisal Foundation, and there's groups that are, member designated groups, and you can get a certification or an accreditation from them. But it's not regulated. It's not a government.
Are personal property appraisers related to property appraisers, that organization, or are they completely different associations?
Well, real estate appraisers and personal property appraisers have different sets of requirements of what we go through, and a lot of times people kind of mix it up. Like even for my page where I say that I do personal property appraisers, a lot of calls I get are people that need real estate appraised, and it's totally different. What we do in terms of appraising furniture, antiques, art, or even like I said, the jewelry lady that does GIA certified jewelry appraisals, it's a totally different. Some of the organizations are the same, but you have different kinds of training, and it's called USPAP standards that you follow for appraising. But the appraisal industry does have kind of more structure, I would say, than the estate sale industry does.
So how did you develop your first business relationship? You said you come out of art, and now you're going into entrepreneurship. I mean, 2 completely separate worlds. How did you get out of art or get into entrepreneurship and become a business professional?
When I worked for an auction house, I saw a lot of property, and then I just made the decision that I was going to go into doing appraisals. So I did that for a long time, and then I lived in upstate New York, and I got kind of out of doing my own business for a little while. I worked for now Senator Gillibrand. She was at the time Congresswoman. So I just had volunteered for her. I met her, through lunches and stuff like that. And I volunteered for her. I wound up working for her. And then when I was no longer working for her and relocated back out here, then I decided, I'm going to go back into business for myself. And it's very, for me, doing estate sales is very flexible because I have my kids. I can schedule time. If I want to be away, I can schedule, okay, well, I'm not going to do a sale that weekend. Now I have crew so that I can do a sales even when I'm not here, I can have sales.
And you said originally you were hoping just to get 1 a month, but now you quickly got to like 1 a week or something, right?
Now I do pretty much 2 every weekend. I just set up my email, and we're doing 2 this weekend. We're doing 2 next weekend. The weekend after that.
So, I mean, there's good demand for this type of a business out there, and so it's something you didn't think you thought it was going to take some time to grow, but you hopped right into it, and now you're doing 2 a weekend now.
Yeah, pretty much every weekend. Yeah. So
how long do they take? Does it go by square footage, or I guess you know the interior contents of the house? I guess they all vary. How does that work?
Vary. I don't do a one-size-fits-all type of a thing. What I do is I do a consult, and most of the people in the industry work this way. We go out, we meet with the family, we see what they have, we determine the scope of work, because you can have everything from somebody who has a really clean, organized, beautiful home where pretty much everything is virtually staged, and all you really have to do is price it and take it out of the cabinets. And then there's people where the house has been empty for 4 years. You know, people have been bringing stuff in and out. Sometimes one of my clients that moved, she had inherited, you know, her mom's stuff, her husband's mom's stuff, and aunt's stuff. So she had like a 3 or 4 car garage full of just boxes and boxes of stuff. So I knew we were going to need to do so much setup for that sale, because we were going to have to unpack everything so that people could see it. And so I would know what it was, because I can't price it if I don't, you know what it is. So, you know, so each sale we go on a consult, and then we make a determination. Okay, I'm going to need a week to set up your sale. I'm going to need 2 weeks. And then I determine the pricing from there. So.
All right, hold that point there. Currently talking to Lisa Kroese. She is an estate sales coach and owner of the estate company, and learn more at estatefusion.com. In the next segment, we'll get into more about how she helps other estate sales people in their own business, some advice for startups, and how she can help you with her own consulting plan. So learn more at estatefusion.com. You're listening to That Business Show 2.0 with your host, Jamie Maloney, where business becomes show business. And welcome back to That Business Show 2.0, where business becomes show business. My guest today, Lisa Kroese, owner of estatefusion.com, where she helps estate planner or estate sales professionals get the job done. And we'll be talking about that throughout the discussion. But Lisa, real quick, you know, I mentioned my friend in that first segment who's an estate sales professional. And about 3 months ago, he was doing a job and came across some old photos of President Jimmy Carter. And,
oh yeah, I know him.
And he got in contact with the Jimmy Carter, you know, people, and Jimmy Carter invited him up to Georgia for a weekend, and he got to meet him. He gave him back the photos, and it was a whole big thing. But he even got on the news and everything from that. So
yeah, he's famous.
yeah, he is. And so I guess there's some treasure in some of these estate sales too.
Yeah, you'll come across all kinds of things, whether it's, you know, personal family treasures, things of historic interest, things of local historic interest, you know, works by local artists.
What's the most unique thing that you've ever come across? Does anything stand out that you came across that you're like, wow?
No, I've done, you know, sometimes where we send something to auction. About 2 years ago, I sent a painting to auction that sold for $15,000, you know, in the auction. So one time I found a painting in a guy's garage that he was like, "Oh, my dad found it," you know, and sold that for $8,000 at an auction.
I wouldn't know it was worth anything either. I have no background in art and paint and stuff, so I would just be as clueless as that guy right there. So that's why we need people like you can tell us what we got.
Yeah. So, and another sale I did, I found I had no idea really what it was, but I knew it was like handmade, and it was a piece of, you know, it was fabric, and I was like, this is all handmade. It took somebody a long time, you know, and it was a special shawl, like Victorian era shawl. That was worth like $1,500. So that was really nice, because it's just like, you know, I was looking at it, and I had pictures of it up on my site, and people were like, how much is that? You know, and people were thinking like, oh, maybe $50. And I was like, I have to research it, because I haven't seen one of them, and I can tell it's well made, and I can tell, you know, it's really beautiful. And, you know, so there's things like that we've, you
Now,
know,
how do people buy from estate sales? Do they have to go on site and bid? Can they do this from the comfort of their home on a website? How does that part work?
the industry is really changing a lot. So, there's people that do traditional estate sales where we, set everything up and you come in and people, examine everything firsthand. Different people do it in different ways. One of the things I really like about coaching is I feel like there's not really one way to liquidate an estate. So the ways that you like to do it, you probably can do it. And then there's people that do, online auctions, and some of the estate sale platforms like estatesales.org, and I think estatesales.net is now going to do this too, where they offer an online platform for people so you can go in. And that's helpful too, because sometimes we have sales in places where, maybe gated communities where they don't want a big, they don't want 30 cars lined up waiting, to get in and stuff like that. So you can find them online. A lot of times they have low opening bids. It might be, a $1 opening bid, but one cautionary thing about that is sometimes you'll find them in your area where you can bid online or go and see it and bid and then pick it up in person. But then sometimes they do shipping. So it might be kind of like, well, it's a $1 opening bid, but then it's going to be $25 to ship it, so
Do you usually see the people who come to the estate sales, is it usually the same group of people over and over again? Are they the people that have the thrift stores and they're just looking for inventory?
Well, we develop followers. So like my, on Expert Estates, on my business, I have on my Facebook page, like almost 1,500 people, on my professional Facebook page. And then I have like, another probably about the same amount on my email list. And then when we do a sale, usually, neighbors will come to we'll get new people, we'll get a mix of our regulars and people who come to almost every sale, or maybe people who come to just sales in that certain neighborhood. I was
gonna say, so let's talk about the people then that you're working with as a coach. First off, do you prefer the consulting side or the actual doing the estate sales part of your business better?
Well, I mean, I like both. That's why I still do both. But I don't, as a coach, I mean, sometimes I think, well, I could just stop doing estate sales and just do coaching. But I like to still be, doing it because it changes all the time. And this way I always have new things. I always experience something and then I'm like, oh, I can use that to help, people that I'm working with. And the industry has been, for me, it's been a really good, flexible business. And I've loved it.
Are the people that come to you for assistance with estate sales, are they usually transitioning from another business, or are they usually coming from industry and going into entrepreneurship for the first time? What do you see in your clientele?
Yeah, I see a lot of different types of people. I see some people who are kind of like me, where they're trying to, do something where they're also still have their family, so they want to be able to work from home. I also see people who say, I've been doing whatever X, Y, or Z for like 30 years and I need a change, and I've always loved estate sales and I've always thought I wanted to do it. So people who it's kind of been a big dream for them, where they're kind of, phasing from one career to another. Some people who have run their own other types of businesses, so they know about being an entrepreneur, and other people who have been working for somebody and are scared to kind of make that leap of, well, am I going to be able to take care of my family if I'm, if I'm the one that's in charge of everything, the payroll and getting the clients and all that stuff.
So what advice would you give to people that are entering the estate sales business? When you begin to work with people, what are some of like those intake questions and consultations that you do with people to make sure it's a fit for them?
Well, I coach people. When I coach people, some of the things that I work with them on are, developing a business plan, developing their, how much money do they expect to make to have realistic expectations, because there is some, fake news about, sometimes I'll see, cash cow business, $38,000 a week or whatever, and yeah, we bring in a lot of, revenues, but we also have to pay out a lot of, we're not selling, you can do a $60,000 sale in a weekend, but that's not your $60,000. Most of that goes to your client, so
Right.
You have to pay your staff, you have to pay, all your operating expenses. So there's a lot of different things to consider, and some people can do it with, starting out in kind of a way where where they still have their regular job, and then they can maybe on the weekends and at nights set up like their first sale and kind of do a test run to see, do I really like this, and one thing that I think sometimes people they see us on estate sale day and it looks very glamorous and everybody's coming in and the house looks great and they're like, oh, I want to do this, but really, for like 2 or 3 weeks we're out there, kicking through dust and finding.
Do you got to document every item in the house too before the sale? Do you have to go through every piece of clothing and fork and spoon?
It depends. Sometimes for probate or trustees or something like that, we have to do some kind of an inventory, and the degree to which it has to be itemized can vary. And if you're going to get into the industry, you're going to eventually be working with, probate trustee type of scenarios, most likely. So I did a sale a little while ago for a trustee, a professional trustee and we found a PVC pipe full of, it was all sealed up. I actually have it on my shelf there. It's full of gold and silver. It was white PVC pipe sealed up with like plumbers, so it was waterproof. And I said to the trustee, I was like, this guy was burying gold and silver. It had $16,917 worth of gold and silver in it.
Wow.
So you'll find, really interesting things like that. I told the trustee about it and he was like, oh, great, bring it to the, told me to bring it to the lawyer's office. I was like, it's already sold. He's like, whoa, well, I was like, well, was Phil out there with me? Like, finding rattlesnakes and like, I was like, that's my contract. It's hidden treasures. Yeah. I find it, I sell it,
Where did you source your first client? Is it usually a probate attorney? Is that where you usually go, or a state attorney first? Or how do you break into that business?
My first clients found me online because when I opened maybe like 7 years ago, it just happened that a lot of other sellers in my area, because I had relocated, and a lot of other sellers in my area knew people through word of mouth. So none of them had any kind of website presence. So I set up a website and everybody who was looking for somebody online found me because, and a lot of people do look for somebody online because they're, let's say they're in my area. Let's say I was in, and, they're in San Diego and they're trying to find somebody. So they don't have the copy of the local phone book. So they do a search, So people found me first online, and it happened much faster than I expected because I was like, oh, I don't really know people, and I don't know who's referring people to me. And then the next group of people that I went and, sourced clients from were realtors, because I had met a lot of realtors when I was looking for a house. I was buying a house. So I called them and said, hey, you showed me that house, and I want to let you know I bought a house and I'm opening a estate sale business, and, maybe you have some listings where they're too cluttered and we can do an estate sale for you. So just that personal relationship. Most people who are doing sales have an advantage over when I started, because they probably have already been living in the area and they probably already know people, so they have relationships to build on.
Real quick, got about a minute left. You again also focus on, like we said, helping people through coaching and consulting. You're based in California, but does it matter where the person is in terms of consulting with them to help them in this business?
I work with people all over, and people have a hard time finding somebody local when they're breaking into the business. Because obviously people don't want to train their competitors, stuff like that. And, I work with them on the specific problems that they're having. And some people who hire me, I even have one client that she has a franchise and she has all this marketing power and she got all this training. But she said she knew she needed a coach because she was still going out and she was taking jobs that weren't profitable. And she was afraid. She was really just afraid to sell, to liquidate. And I was like, that's what they're hiring you to do. They're hiring you to liquidate. And she's like, but I'm getting so little for it. I was like, right, but you get a little bit for everything. And then before you know it, you have $15,000 instead of $5,000. You have to sell it or you're not going to get to that, number in the end. So different people come to me for, kind of different reasons. And I work to determine if I think I'm going to be able to help them or not before I take them on for coaching. I make them do a couple of things, do like kind of a personality test, find out, a little bit about what their expectations are, how much work they're willing to do on their end, because it's not a magic wand just because you call me and I'm a coach if you're not going to do that, that work and all that stuff.
Hold that point there. We got to wrap up the program and everything. So, but a good discussion from Lisa Kroese, estate sales coach and owner. Learn more at estatefusion.com. So, Lisa, thank you so much for being on the program with us today and a great discussion on estate sales.
Thank you. I loved it. It's great being here.
Thank you so much. And again, estatefusion.com. You've been listening to That Business Show 2.0 with your host, Jamie Maloney, where business becomes show business.